once you look close and see it.
First, I wasn't too sure why people were freaking out about this video until I read this right here, human remains. A bunch of you guys tagged me in this TikTok where the caption is RIP to everyone on that plane. We then see this box being unloaded. I believe this video is insinuating that the person in this box was involved in the DC plane crash. I want to be clear, this type of shipping is not something reserved for large and unexpected tragedies. This is actually pretty standard. If somebody passes away overseas or far away from their home, they do have to get the remains back so their family can deal with the funeral. So this is pretty standard. They have specialized packaging and they send it on commercial jets. And yes, they are going to be loaded down in the luggage compartment area with everybody else's stuff. We also have things like urns that can be transported down there. So at any given point, if you hop onto a passenger plane, there could be somebody deceased below you in the baggage hold. This slideshow, as many of them are, is quite disturbing, and I would not recommend looking up this video. This slideshow first starts off with an image of a yellow wagon with the title Gelber wagon, then an image of a green one with the title Gruner wagon, and finally this image where all of these guys' faces are blacked out and we can see a skull emoji. This is widely referred to as the white wagon. And it really doesn't take too much imagination to figure out why this is referred to as the White Wagon. This is a movement that has been in places like Russia, and this movement is perpetrated by people that are extremely far right, and basically what they do is a group of them will board a train, look for people that do not have Slavic features, and then do horrible things to them. And to be honest with you guys, I have not watched this video, nor do I plan on watching this video because I don't want it ingrained in my mind, but it would appear as though this is fitting of that same exact movement. Absolute unit, bro. That's what this guy is. I don't think that 99.9% of the people watching this video would even get close to doing this. Lately, we've been seeing a resurgence of the Hey Apple slideshow. Nice little throwback. This one starts off by showing a truck with a water canyon saying Hey Apple, an image of a Minecraft shield saying what, and then a water canyon targeting this guy, but instead of falling back, he's standing his ground. For some context, this photo was taken back in 2021 during riots that were taking place in Colombia. One of the non-lethal ways that these riots will get dispersed is through the use of high-pressure water cannons that they shoot at protesters to split them up. And these water cannons are no joke. They can pick people up and toss them back tens of feet. But this is allegedly a photo of the same dude that we saw in that very famous photo, and as you can see, he is absolutely massive. Obviously, he is going to be very capable of doing this.
They found a soldier from WW2.
Letting you know now, I'm going to be blurring out pretty much every single photo in this video, that way it doesn't get taken down. In any event, this video that I got tagged in shows these guys who have uncovered a pretty interesting piece of history. The remains of a soldier from World War II that the people who filmed this video claim to be German. After World War II, a lot of the surface level bodies were cleaned up, but even today we are still finding remains of soldiers that have been buried, especially in these very bloody battlefields. You might be wondering how they can tell which remains belong to which country, and that's just based off of what helmet they're wearing. In World War II, depending on which country you were fighting for, there were a variety of different helmets used. These right here are the Axis helmets, and right here is the German helmet. And then you also have the Allied country helmets, which do look slightly different. In terms of this helmet right here, it does look somewhat similar to the German version, which is right here, but I could also see it being Bulgarian as well.
Hey, Apple! What?
When I first saw this slideshow, I've got to admit I was at a loss for words, had no idea what happened here, but I think I finally cracked the case. This is another classic Hey Apple slideshow, starting off by saying Hey Buffalo, Buffalo saying what, and finally an image of what looks to be a buffalo, which I actually think is a cow, sitting in a tree with no explanation as to how it got there. Now, as far as I can tell, there's only one circumstance where a cow is going to end up in a tree like this, or really anywhere that's high, and that's in the case of a flood. More than likely what happened here is there were very high floodwaters on this farm, the cow was forced to swim, or it wasn't able to swim and just floated, and eventually ended up stuck in this tree, and once the water receded, it was left up there. There are other examples of similar things like this happening, like in this photo where this cow actually survived and ended up on this roof.
Being a queen termite sounds awful.
Money!
If there are any ladies watching this video, you should be counting your lucky stars that you weren't born as a female termite because their existence sounds horrible. So this is a skin-crawling clip that I came across on Reddit. It shows what looks to be the top half of a termite, and then this mass on the back end that is pulsating, and this made me very uncomfortable the first time I watched it. And what this is a queen termite. There's only one of these per colony typically. The life of a queen termite is a very long and arduous one. They first go out with wings, find a king, and then they settle down and they mate for life. But before they do so, they will break off their wings, the queen will grow in size around 4 to 6 inches, and then it spends its entire life completely immobile, not able to move, just spitting out babies non-stop, while the male constantly provides the male portion of the DNA. And these queens live up to 50 years. Think about just sitting somewhere popping out babies for 50 years straight. Despite the fact this clip is old and was recorded back in 2018, it's recently been going viral, and a lot of you guys might have heard the disturbing story behind it. This woman can be seen crying, talking about children that were spotted in a truck, and the story associated with this video is that this woman was working as a truck inspector at a gas station when one day a nervous trucker pulled up. She then peeked inside of his cargo and noticed a stack of bodies on the inside that looked like children's. It's then claimed that this video was filmed shortly after this happened, which is why she's freaking out, and that a little while later, her remains were found inside of a suitcase with a note that said, "This is what you get for seeing something you shouldn't have," or at least something along those lines. Now, this is definitely not the craziest story that I've ever heard, but I have one issue with it. It's the fact that no matter how hard I looked online, I couldn't find a single article confirming this. In fact, I found the opposite, just one article stating that this is false.
Always be careful of the dreaded drain snake.
This video first went viral back in 2023, but for some reason it's getting reposted a ton, and this is not something that you guys need to worry about. So a bunch of you guys tagged me in this post that Barstool Sports made. It has the caption, "I heard this weird noise coming from my bathroom, so I went to see what it was." And then something known as a drain snake pops out, but don't worry guys, it's not actually a living creature. Obviously over time, things get washed down into your drain, and it can sometimes build up. So, in order to unclog your drain, you need something known as a drain snake. If it's not a big clog, people will buy these one-time use ones. But if you've got some hair really caked up in there, and yes, this is hair, you need something a little bit more powerful. This is when you enlist the help of one of these heavy-duty drain snakes. It will snake through the plumbing and take out whatever is blocking your pipe. And these drain snakes are extremely powerful, sometimes enough to break toilets in half.
Never inflate a puffer fish with air.
A lot of people in the comments on this video thought this was pretty funny, but it's really not that funny for the pufferfish. This TikTok that I got tagged in went extremely viral with over 20 million views. It shows this pufferfish sitting on the beach inflated, and then the guy tosses it back into the water, and it kind of just floats there and the video ends. Now obviously, as many of you guys know, pufferfish typically start out looking like this, but when a pufferfish feels threatened, its defense response is going to be to puff up with water. When it swells up with water, it's not a big deal because this is what they're designed to do. However, when they swell up with air, this can be really bad for them, potentially even killing them. And this video showcases exactly why it's so bad. The pufferfish is stuck on the surface of the water, it's unable to expel the air, and this is where it's going to stay until its end. I also find it highly improbable that this pufferfish just randomly ended up on the beach inflated with air. I feel like this guy caught the pufferfish, threatened it, and made it inflate. So this slideshow presents itself as being pretty creepy, but in my opinion, I don't think it's that creepy. It more so presents as religious. So this slideshow shows a couple different images of this large crowd of people standing here, an old rundown wall, and then these gravestones. These photos show a very important site in Islamic religion known as Al-Baqi Cemetery, located in Saudi Arabia. And Al-Baqi Cemetery is the first and oldest Islamic cemetery located in present-day Saudi Arabia. It has had quite a tumultuous past though. That's because it's been built, demolished, rebuilt, and demolished again a couple of different times in the past couple of centuries. Specifically, the structures that were on it in the late 1800s and early 1900s were destroyed in the 1920s, and now there's really nothing left in its place, and there are no plans to rebuild it. And of course, there's a lot of controversy behind the decision to destroy these structures, as well as the fact that it won't be rebuilt. Yep, this is 100% real, and I'd be lying to you if I said I wouldn't consider doing something like this. This is a classic Did You Know slideshow, starting off by saying, did you know that more than 300 dead people are frozen, waiting to be revived with future technology? This is one of those rare times where a science fiction idea has actually made its way into reality. This is known as cryonics. A lot of people are afraid of death. They want to cling on to life for as long as possible, so this is one of those proposed solutions. You freeze a person after they become deceased pretty much directly afterwards, and wait to see if our technology becomes good enough to bring them back later. The first person to have ever been cryogenically frozen was this guy, James Bedford, back in 1967, and he currently is still being held at Alcor Labs in Arizona. There are also approximately 1,500 people on waiting lists that are going to be cryogenically frozen as well when their time comes.
If you see this knife, run away.
I am by no means a knife expert, but this one has got to be the deadliest knife in the entire world. Without context, it's pretty hard to understand what's going on in this video. This guy is stabbing a jug full of some liquid, but instead of it being a simple insertion and pulling it out, the entire jug ends up exploding. And that's because he's using a specialized knife known as the Wasp injector knife. This knife is just like any other knife, extremely sharp, except there's this small little notch up in the top that air gets pushed through. Specifically, CO2 canisters are inserted into the handle of the knife, and you just push this little button right here, and whatever it's stabbed into fills up with air. And this knife is specifically designed for defense or offense against large land and sea predators. But so far, I've only seen it used against melons. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the CO2 is freezing cold, so anything it touches literally freezes on contact.
Doing this prank is a horrible idea.
Maybe I'm just getting old, guys. I feel like the fun police every time I make a video like this, but I really just don't find this funny. So this video has the caption, "My favorite activity is making sand traps." We then see these two unsuspecting people walking on the beach, and then this guy falls into a short hole. And you might be wondering, what's the big deal with this? But don't worry, I'm going to tell you. So first off, sand traps are easy to make. It involves digging a hole, placing a towel on top of it, and when somebody steps on it or sits on it, they fall through. But even doing this in a short hole is a bad idea because there is a relatively high risk of them hyperextending their knee and injuring themselves. On top of this, the deeper the hole, the worse it is because there's a chance of cave-in as well. And in both of these scenarios, whether or not the person hyperextends their knee and injures themselves, or the hole caves in on top of them, they would easily be able to sue you and bring a bunch of charges against you.
This man is lucky to be alive.
Boiled alcohol.
This has got to be one of the most terrifying things that you can experience, but fortunately, this guy made it out alive. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows a guy walking on a frozen lake when he tries to cross over this small crack, and he ends up falling through the ice while wearing all of his gear. He then spends approximately a minute trying to get out of the ice, all the while the ice is breaking around him, but eventually he is able to get out, and we can see the path that he took to get out of the ice. But this begs the question, do you guys know how to get out of this situation? Because I feel like most people probably would not make it out alive. Well, it's pretty simple here. If you fall through ice, make sure that you remain calm, and also don't try to pull yourself vertically out. Instead, while remaining calm, position your body horizontally and start to progressively pull yourself out of the water, all the while kicking. And once you start getting out, don't stand back up, just roll over and get somewhere warm.
This man is already dead, and he knows it.
This is a topic I've covered almost as much as Stillwater, and every single time I cover it, it still doesn't get any less sad. This video shows a guy in a doctor's office looking very uncomfortable and sweating, and someone off camera hands him a small capful of water that he attempts to drink, but he's unable to do so and throws the water away. And as many of you guys know, this is one of the hallmark symptoms of rabies called hydrophobia. Also, as many of you guys know, rabies is one of the most terrifying things to die from. That's because as soon as you start showing symptoms, you're basically done for. Your fate is sealed. You go through several different stages, each one worse than the next, and all the while going progressively more and more insane. In terms of number of rabies cases, India is at the top of that list with approximately 18 to 20,000 people dying every single year. This is in part due to the massive amount of stray dogs walking around that act as carriers for rabies. Even just looking at this doll makes me extremely uncomfortable, but once you know the alleged backstory, it becomes even worse. This TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in starts off by showing an image of a Raggedy Ann doll saying, "I'm the most haunted doll," an image of another famous doll by the name of Robert saying, "No, I'm the most haunted doll," and finally, this nightmare fuel, a ventriloquist dummy head by the name of Mr. Fritz. Mr. Fritz actually went viral quite a while ago for supposedly opening up his display case and his eyes visibly blinking and mouth moving, but I'm pretty sure this clip is fake. Either way, Mr. Fritz was supposedly created back in World War II from a soldier in a prisoner of war camp by the name of Billy Booth. Story then goes that Billy Booth would use Mr. Fritz to entertain all the other soldiers in the prisoners' camp until Billy Booth and a few other prisoners lost their lives, and now Mr. Fritz is supposedly haunted.
This man must have a death wish.
Boiled alcohol.
Generally speaking, Santa, yes, you would be correct here, but unfortunately, we've actually gotten this one wrong in the past. This is a video that went extremely viral that a bunch of you guys have tagged me in yet again. We can see this guy standing next to a small whirlpool, dropping this branch in, and it completely vanishes. Now, in general, standing next to a randomly forming whirlpool in nature is not a good idea because of what could lie below. Whirlpools are often formed by sinkholes that occur underwater, and those can give way at any moment, swallowing you up if you're standing too close. But after finding the original account where this video was posted, they were actually completely safe in this scenario. Apparently, they were visiting the St. Croix River while it was flooding back in 2023, and this was the exact location where this video was recorded. You'll notice they have this pipe right here, and this is actually what was forming the whirlpool because the flooding was so bad.
They found this exploring Chernobyl.
Boiled alcohol.
Now, to be honest with you guys, I'm not too sure if this was actually taken in Chernobyl, but either way, it's pretty creepy. This video that I got tagged in was posted by an urban exploration account, and clearly you can see they found a giant pile of abandoned gas masks. And because the caption says Chernobyl, a lot of people were concerned that there was a ton of radiation in this area, and they even thought they saw an eye right here. According to my research, the only pile of abandoned gas masks that I've seen photos of in Chernobyl was located in a school, and they were all children's masks. I have, however, found tons of photos online of giant piles of gas masks in places like Latvia, but assuming this is in Chernobyl, would there be a radiation concern from these masks? Well, to be honest, probably not as much as you might think. There are vastly more radioactive areas in Chernobyl, and radiation does decay over time. Even the claw that was used to directly pick up radioactive material is considered safe for a few minutes.
This CIA gun will give you a heart attack.
There are quite a few terrifying guns out there, but this one right here is a lot scarier than it actually looks. So back in the 1970s, during a so-called church committee, the CIA decided to release a few of their secrets. And one of the main secrets here that captured a lot of people's attention was this firearm right here, known as the heart attack gun. This gun, unlike a standard issued gun, is meant to be very discreet, and this could only be used for one thing: assassinations. And instead of using standard bullets, a mixture of frozen water and shellfish toxin were placed into the gun and used as its projectile. And as a result, the unfortunate person shot by this projectile would end up suffering a heart attack pretty quickly within a few minutes. And the best part about this weapon is that it was nearly untraceable. Only a small red dot would be left in the skin where the puncture wound took place. And I've just got to say, if this is the kind of thing that they had back in the 1970s, imagine what they have today.
This proves that the moon is fake.
Money.
Really, guys? We're going to use this as an opportunity to prove that the moon is fake? It does not prove that at all. This TikTok video that I got tagged in went quite viral. It shows this person recording the moon, and at first it's in this position, and every single time they move the camera, the moon just moves back and forth. So a lot of people are using this as an opportunity to state their disbelief towards the fact that the moon is real. But again, guys, this is another example of something known as the parallax effect. You guys have heard me talk about it when it comes to planes that are standing still. It's the exact same thing. Put simply by this YouTube thumbnail, the parallax effect is very simple. The closer an object is to you, the faster it appears moving when you're moving. And you can go a step further and break it down into layers. The closest the layer to you, the faster it's going to appear to be moving. So in this case, the moon is the furthest layer back, the building is the closest, and every time you move, the building is actually what appears to be moving, not the moon.
This is quite literally impossible.
This is the kind of video I typically wouldn't cover. There's nothing creepy or strange going on, but a lot of people were confused, so I'm going to explain it anyways. As you can see, this video that I got tagged in shows people on a ski hill. These people are slowly going down, but really people were confused about this guy who's just walking in place and seemingly going nowhere. Now, if you've never been skiing or snowboarding, or if you're already good, you probably wouldn't know what this is, but basically there's a bunny hill for people to practice on and get better. These bunny hills are extremely short though, so they don't require a massive ski lift to get to the top of the hill. Instead, they either use a tow rope that you grab onto and ride up, or even easier for beginners, if the ski hill has enough money, they'll put in a conveyor belt. Very easy to get on, you just stand on it and ride it to the top. So clearly this guy is walking down the conveyor belt for some reason, and it's conveniently hidden behind this snow.
Whatever you do, don't trip here.
If I saw one of these elevators, I would definitely give it a try, but there's a million things that can go wrong, as you guys can see. This is a video that I got tagged in that shows these people using something known as a paternoster elevator. You can see that this elevator does not have doors, it's consistently moving, so if you miss your stop, you gotta wait. So the paternoster elevator is an older style elevator. This diagram right here does a pretty good job of explaining how it works. There's a couple different tracks here, and the elevator just continuously rotates up and down. And while this elevator used to be relatively popular, its popularity has phased out because it is significantly more dangerous than your standard modern elevators. There are safeties in place to prevent injuries from happening, but even so, there have been people who have fallen down these elevator shafts, broken their arms by sticking it out through the openings, or have gotten crushed. And it would be just my luck to hop on this, accidentally miss this lip, and then lose both of my legs.
This is what real death looks like.
Virtually everyone is familiar with death, at least at a multicellular level. You've got an animal, it passes away, and that might look like it's the end of it. But seeing as we are multicellular organisms, death is actually happening every single day in our bodies to specific cells. And this is one form of cell death known as apoptosis. So in your body, cells are typically going to undergo one of two cell death processes. The number one is apoptosis. This one is normal and natural. And the second one is necroptosis, which is much more violent. Apoptosis is a controlled cell death to make way for new cells and progress. And over time, small pieces of the cell will form into something known as apoptotic bodies. These are then broken apart, and pieces of the cell are going to be reabsorbed and recycled. And again, necrosis is when a cell gets damaged to the point that it basically explodes.
Do not touch the dreaded red mercury.
Lately, I've been seeing this everywhere, people talking about red mercury, but you don't have to worry, guys, it's not real at all. So this TikTok video that I got tagged in shows this guy holding what looks to be an old German capsule containing pure red mercury. He then places this capsule down next to this bottle of water, and out of nowhere, the bottle of water starts turning red. Red mercury actually has a pretty interesting background. A lot of people believe that it has supernatural qualities, and some people believe that this is a vital component to nuclear bombs. So much so that this supposed substance has even been sold on the black market, specifically when people are looking for arms to make certain weapons. But every single time this stuff has been purchased and tested, there is nothing about it that indicates it's actually red mercury or has anything to do with the supernatural or making nuclear bombs. Instead, people are just mixing red food coloring with other liquids. Clearly, this grave right here looks quite odd, but there is a reason why it's so famous, and that's the backstory behind it. This TikTok slideshow starts off with an image of a man making a deal with the devil saying, "I will give you my soul in exchange for riches," and the devil saying, "When your bones touch the ground, your soul will be mine." We then get images of the grave of Martin Buska, and as you guys can see, the grave is not touching the ground. There are feet below it. The story goes that Martin was a poor Spanish immigrant who really didn't have anything to his name, but always dreamed of having a much more lavish life. Eventually, Martin became tired of this existence, so he called the Man of Darkness himself and decided to propose this deal. For quite some time, Martin lived the life he had always dreamt of, but eventually he started getting old, and when the time was near, he made plans for his funeral. In order to scam the devil, he decided to build his coffin on 6 pairs of feet and lay himself in there, and also make it earthquake-proof.
Did this prank go too far?
Boil this alcohol.
Now hold up, wait a minute, before you guys start feeling bad for this guy, the person you should actually be feeling bad for is the prankster. This is a video that was sent to me through Instagram DM. It shows one of these really bad pranks from 2015 where this guy's dressed up like a bunny and jumps out and scares these 2 unsuspecting people. But during this prank, this elderly gentleman clutches his chest and it appears as though he's suffered a heart attack. And a lot of people in the comments on this video assume and state as a fact that this older man died. However, that's not true. This video was actually uploaded back in 2015 by a YouTube channel that has the name The Royal Stampede. And this elderly gentleman was actually completely fine. That's because he was an actor. This prankster's friends wanted to prank him back, so this is what they did. The prank went on for quite a while too. This guy actually thought that he inadvertently took the life of the old guy.
My fucking gas tank's farting. What the fuck? Is it gonna explode?
I can't lie, I thought finding the answer to this video would be pretty quick and easy, but it took me an hour of research just to figure it out. So for once, we got tagged in a video that isn't disturbing. This is pretty humorous. This girl's recording her car, and from this easy fuel gas cap, there's a fart sound emanating, and yes, this is 100% real. So to break this down, inside of your car you have something known as an engine intake manifold, and there's a vacuum present inside, meaning it is sucking through. And you also have something known as a purge valve, which keeps that vacuum isolated at the engine intake manifold. But on occasion, the purge valve can be gunked up and left partially open, and when you shut the car off, this vacuum can travel down the fuel lines towards your gas tank, and in cars with these newer caps that are basically just spring-loaded, the vacuum will pull against it and create a vibration, which sounds like a fart. I want to apologize in advance because if any of you guys are prone to an existential crisis, this might make it worse. This is a little bit of a different Did You Know slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by saying, did you know? This creature inside of your head is who you truly are. And then we get a pretty creepy image of the human nervous system. Now, I feel like a lot of people just look in the mirror, they see themselves, their face, and their body, and that's who they recognize as themselves. And while it is true that we have a variety of different systems that we need to survive, the one system that's responsible for our entire perception of reality is the nervous system. And there are exhibits out there like this one where they've removed the entire nervous system from a cadaver, and this is basically what your existence boils down to, just a bunch of these long ropes leading up to your brain that processes that information. So yes, in a way, this is actually what you look like, not what's on the surface.
She only got 2 days for this.
There's one thing that you guys should always remember. Even if you're friends with somebody, there are still boundaries in place, and boundaries were definitely crossed in this video. So this is a relatively old video that was recorded back in 2018, but recently it's been going viral, and it shows this girl on top of a 60-foot tall bridge, and then unprompted her friend pushes her off and we can hear her slap the water below. And this actually happened in my home state of Washington at this particular bridge in Moulton Falls. This is where 17-year-old Jordan Holgerson, looking extremely apprehensive, was debating on whether or not she was going to jump off the bridge. Then her supposed 19-year-old friend, Taylor Smith, decided to push her off, and Jordan suffered 6 broken ribs and punctured lungs. Now initially, Taylor claimed that Jordan asked her to push her, but that clearly wasn't the case. Taylor pled guilty and was given 2 days in jail and 38 days on a work crew.
My battery's getting low. It'll soon be my time to go.
Okay, so there are quite a few things incorrect with this, and we're going to have to break them all down one by one. So we start off by saying, did you know that there was a robot sent to Mars, eventually its battery ran low, and it sang this song as its final transmission. So to start off, we have a few different rovers that made their way to Mars, and the one that this slideshow is probably referring to is Opportunity, which died back in 2018. And a lot of people think that it sang to itself before it died, or at the very least, its last words were, "My battery is low and it's getting dark." But even this statement isn't really true because this was a paraphrased version of the data sent back by the Opportunity rover. With that being said though, there is a rover that sang to itself at least once, and that was the Curiosity rover. In 2013, it hummed itself happy birthday. The Curiosity rover is actually still active as well, but it doesn't sing itself happy birthday anymore. I'll never tell anyone not to use their imagination, but when you post stuff and pretend like it's real, no bueno. This TikTok slideshow doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We can see this weird pattern with the caption, "Darkened light, it can travel across the universe." And we get a few other images of these circles with lines connecting them, and a bunch of spheres. Now, I'm not too sure what this person is referring to, but I'm going to assume they mean shadows, and shadows do not travel faster than light. So darkness and light travel at the same speed, but there's one caveat here, and that's the fact that darkness is not actually a thing. Rather, light is actually made up of photons, and a shadow is literally just the absence of those photons. Think about shining a beam of light and then placing an object in front of it to cast a shadow. The original photons will continue to travel while the darkness travels at the same speed. Don't get me wrong though, it's still very fast, 186,000 miles per second or 300,000 kilometers per second.
They found this in the ocean.
Money.
Out of all the things that you could possibly find in the ocean, this one is probably the least creepy and least concerning. In the clip that you guys just watched, these people are clearly pretty far out at sea, and they randomly came across this large ring. And this is something that a lot of people probably have never seen before. A lot of people were tagging Juke Squad saying that they left one of their trampolines out into the ocean, but of course, that's not actually the case. In reality, this is more than likely one of the enclosures from an offshore fish farm. These fish farms have recently grown in popularity. They have these rings around them like you guys saw in the original video, as well as this netting on the outside to keep the fish in. And on an off note, these fish farms can be ridiculously large. This is one that was recently implemented in Norway. It is massive. So I'm not exactly sure why this one's here, but more than likely there was a storm where it just broke away and drifted off. Yep, this slideshow is very self-explanatory. It's exactly what it looks like. This is a simple 2-image slideshow that I got tagged in. Starting off with the year 2005, we can see Earth looking very pristine. Then 2025, and we can see a bunch of junk surrounding the planet. I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily think about this, but humans, we leave behind a lot of pollution. And ever since going to space, we have only continued to leave pollution there as well in the Earth's orbit. This right here is a model of the space junk and debris currently orbiting the Earth. Every single one of these small points right here is a piece of debris. In total, right now, surrounding our Earth, there are approximately 170 million pieces of space debris. Keep in mind, not all of these pieces of debris are large objects. As of now, we have about 30,000 10-centimeter sized objects or above 4 inches, but still, at high speed, any object is dangerous in space.
Doing this is actually very
Norman.
You will never see this in person.
I don't think you guys realize this, but it doesn't matter how many days you spend on the beach or at the ocean, you are probably never going to see this creature in real life. Over the past few days, this video has been going super viral, and one of my friends, Dr. Noss, sent it to me. In it, we can see this extremely rare deep-sea fish swimming up towards the surface, way far away from where it usually lies. And this fish is exactly what it looks like, a deep-sea anglerfish just like the one from our favorite childhood movie, Finding Nemo. Now these fish live thousands of feet below the surface of the ocean where there's no light with the exception of their lure, which is meant to draw prey in. And of course, once their prey is drawn in close enough, they will strike with their razor-sharp teeth and consume them. And the only time you're ever going to see one of these close to the surface is when they're in a very young stage of their life, or if they're very sick, discombobulated, and about to pass away. I remember seeing the headlines for this way back in the day when I was graduating high school, so you already know that was quite a while ago. This is another simple Did You Know slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by saying, did you know that Facebook shut down 2 AI bots by the name of Bob and Alice because they started talking in their own language that we couldn't understand? For context, this happened back in 2017. Facebook created 2 chatbots by the name of Bob and Alice who were meant to communicate with one another and show that chatbots would be able to negotiate deals. The bots were then given random virtual items like hats to trade, and researchers observed what happened. And something strange happened. The bots, instead of using normal English, came up with their own shorthand way of negotiating, and this is the actual transcript right here. Doesn't make too much sense. However, Meta didn't shut down these bots because they were scared. They only temporarily turned them off and changed their programming to only speak perfect English.
Always beware of the dreaded hair splinters.
Poisoned alcohol.
Until today, this is something I had no idea existed, but I'll tell you what, it looks pretty nasty. This video that I got tagged in had 20 million views on TikTok, and it shows this guy opening up the webbing of his finger. And in between his ring finger and middle finger, he pulls out a clump of hair, and then he does it to his other hand in the exact same area. And believe it or not, this is actually a risk associated with being a barber, and it's not all that uncommon. So for those of you that are not aware, when you cut hair, the trimmings can actually be pretty sharp. And when you do this activity over time, repetitively, without any protection on your hands, these small pieces of hair can actually get into your skin and form something known as hair splinters. And more often than not, this does occur on the webbing between the fingers, and over time it can also get infected, which is even worse. And this is why a lot of barbers recommend wearing gloves when cutting people's hair so you don't get these hair splinters. I usually don't cover supernatural videos because I'm not a huge believer in it, but even I can admit that's pretty creepy. This is a photo that recently started blowing up on TikTok, even though it was taken back in 2020, and in it we can see these two people in a McDonald's playground. And while this face right here is already creepy, the supposed backstory behind it makes it even worse. Apparently, this photo was taken in Mexico. The family brought this child to the playground, and she stated that she was playing with her imaginary friend, Beta. States that their child was not visibly playing with anybody when they took this photo, but after it was developed is when this face. Honestly, I think it's pretty easy to make a story like this up, but even so, the face does look creepy. And I think that has to do with the fact that the tube that they're in is convex, meaning it's shaped outward, which then distorts the face of whoever's looking through it. So in my opinion, I would deem this story as fake, but as always, maybe I'm wrong. Even though I'm not superstitious, hell no, man. I'm not spending the night in this tunnel for $1 million by myself. No way. This TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in shows various images of this tunnel known as the Anunnaki Tunnel back in 2007, then in 2010, and finally in 2023 where it's completely walled up. And this tunnel, though unassuming at first, has a very disturbing backstory and is widely considered to be one of the most haunted locations in the world. The tunnel was built back in 1949, then abandoned in 1975, and after being abandoned, multiple murders took place here. For example, in 1988, a group of men took a factory worker here and they wanted to steal his car. Eventually, they ended up setting him on fire, and he was found later. A lot of people also say that this tunnel leads to Anunnaki Village, which is a lawless region where every single one of the townsfolk wants to kill visitors.
Hey, Apple! What?
This right here is a perfect example as to why you always keep space between yourself and logging trucks. This is another crazy Hey Apple slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off with logs saying hey truck, a truck saying what, and the final frame where these logs are going straight through the windshield and cabin entirely in this truck. So if you live in a location that produces lumber, like me for example, Washington, the Olympic Peninsula, these trucks are pretty common to see. They transport building materials from point A to point B. While most of the time transport goes smoothly with these trucks, there's always a chance that something could go wrong, logs could fall out, and you don't want to be following close behind one. And even if the logs don't fall off, you still don't want to be close to them. Imagine looking at your phone while driving, the truck driver in front of you slams on his brakes, you look up, and all of those logs go right through your vehicle. This truck driver, I do believe, fortunately survived, but he did get some pretty serious injuries from this. I'm not too sure why this slideshow has such a creepy audio, but I really don't see anything wrong here. In any event, this slideshow that I got tagged in starts off by showing a pin down here in the southern Atlantic Ocean, and we progressively zoom in, start to see this small little island, and finally the zoomed in version with a question mark. Now this right here is what this island actually looks like, and it's known as Tristan da Cunha. And it's actually quite famous. That's because it's widely known as the remotest island in the world. And this right here gives you a better idea as to how far away it is from any major landmass, roughly 1,750 miles. Which means that just like Point Nemo, Tristan da Cunha is closer to the astronauts on the ISS than any major landmass. Despite this though, there are actually some people who see this as a fitting place to live. Roughly 250 people currently live on this island.
Throwing water bags on people Part 2.
It genuinely blows my mind that so many people find this funny when there are so many reasons why this is such a bad idea. Quite a few of you guys tagged me in this video on TikTok, and it's a small mini-series that's gone viral. Basically, this guy just fills up plastic bags with water and then throws them off his balcony at unsuspecting people walking below. So first off, this guy looks to live on the 4th or 5th floor of this apartment complex, and the amount of water that he puts into this bags is variable, but in general, we can assume that it weighs about 4 to 5 pounds. And 4 to 5 pounds dropping from 50 feet up on somebody who's not expecting it could cause a significant amount of damage. On top of this, even throwing something as small as water balloons at unsuspecting people could get you in trouble with the law if they're not feeling happy, and you could get an assault charge. And this dude has apparently already received threats of eviction, and he's also recording it for everyone to see online, incriminating himself. Guys, why do you keep tagging me in these? I've done these so many times, and you know what? I'm going to cover it again and disprove this theory. So here we have another ice wall slideshow showing a massive chunk of ice, this little opening between two icebergs, and finally a variation of the flat earth model where there's a giant ice wall encompassing the flat earth. Now, as you guys know, there's a bunch of different varieties of this theory, ranging from just a standard flat earth with an ice wall, all the way up to mega planets where our world is just a small fraction and there's a bunch of other worlds around us. But for this to work, the world would have to be flat or so large that there's virtually no curvature. But again, this is really easily disproven by the fact that when ships go over the horizon, they progressively sink lower and lower, indicating a curve. On top of this, you can merely look at the night sky, and the constellations are going to be different depending on whether or not you're in the northern or southern hemisphere. On a flat Earth, the constellations would always be the same. For $1 million, I'll sleep with this doll for an entire week straight. I might not enjoy it, but $1 million is $1 million. This is a creepy Did You Know slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by saying, did you know that there's a doll named Let Me Out that has a human brain inside of it? And then we get an image of this highly creepy and disturbing doll. Now, this doll is rumored to be over 200 years old and one of the most haunted dolls in existence. And it's alleged to have been found below somebody's house, but of course reports vary, and it's said that at nighttime things move around the doll, and people have even caught the doll moving. But this, even though creepy, is not the creepiest rumor about the doll, because Letta supposedly has a real human brain inside of its head. Now, of course, I think this is a little bit of a stretch. A 200-plus-year-old brain would basically be dust, especially without proper storage, but still, it does add to the creepiness of the doll.
Hey, Apple! What?
If this is what the bike looks like, imagine what happened to the rider. This is another Hey Apple slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off with an image of a semi-truck saying Hey Apple, an image of a guy on a motorcycle saying what, and finally an image of this motorcycle completely sandwiched in the wheel well of this semi-truck. This incident happened back in 2019, recently it started going viral again, and shockingly, the guy that was on this motorcycle actually survived. When this happened, he was behind a semi-truck driving at a normal speed. When he looked up, the semi-truck had put on its brakes and he got too close. And because the semi-truck had these dual wheels, the front tire of his motorcycle got caught in this and it got pulled underneath the truck. The rider, though, Richard Marshall, was tossed off the bike before he got pulled under the truck, and he was back to work only 2 days after this incident happened. This guy is exceptionally lucky because just looking at this, you would assume that the rider didn't make it.
This lion is digging its own grave.
Just hear me out when I say this, guys, but the lion is not who you should be feeling bad for in this situation. Quite a few of you guys tagged me in this TikTok video, and I've got to admit, I've seen this before. This lion looks extremely worn out, it's digging a hole, it then jumps face first into the hole. And for some reason, every time this video pops up, people seem to think that this lion is literally digging itself its own grave, and it's about to pass away. But when lions pass away, they don't dig their own graves. This lion is doing something that many other lions do, and that's hunt. Specifically, the lion was digging out a warthog burrow. Warthogs will take over other animals' burrows like aardvarks, live in there, and lions will use this as a free opportunity to corner their prey and eventually get their meal. And in this particular case, this lion spent roughly 7 hours digging consistently until finally the warthog decided to run, and it was caught. If you see something like this in the night sky, consider yourself very lucky because not many people get to see this. This TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in starts off by saying, I'm the rarest moon. We can then see a blood moon saying, no, I am. And finally, this image where the moon looks like it has rings, almost like Saturn. Now, of course, in this scenario, the moon does not actually have rings. This is simply a cloud that's being illuminated, but even though this is rare, it's not actually the rarest moon you can see. So first off, a supermoon is one of the most rare moons that you can see. This is when the moon is closest to the Earth in its orbit, and it appears about 25% larger in the night sky. Going a step further, blue moons are even more rare, hence the saying once in a blue moon, and when you combine it with a supermoon, these are referred to as super blue moons. And this is extremely rare because all of the factors have to be just right for this to be possible.
Would you stick your head in for $1 million?
Alright, let's be honest here. If you're saying you wouldn't try this for $1 million, you're lying, but I don't understand why you would do this for free. This is a TikTok video that a bunch of you guys tagged me in, showing this guy processing a fish, and partway through he pauses and looks in a very interesting way. And I don't know if he was dared to do this, but then he puts his head into the fish's mouth and it clamps down and the video cuts off. Now it's kind of hard to tell with the angle of the video. More than likely though, we're looking at something known as a monkfish, and let me tell you, these guys are ugly and also pretty dangerous. Monkfish are bottom feeders, and they're quite terrifying predators in their own environment, sporting very sharp teeth and a relatively strong bite force. And when handling them, it's recommended to do so with care because they have injured people in the past. So this experience here probably wasn't too great. The only thing he has going for him is the fact the fish is out of water and probably pretty weak and close to passing away. With everything going on in the aviation industry lately, I'm gonna be honest, I do not want to hop on a plane anytime soon. So this video recently went viral with over 30 million views on TikTok. Fortunately, no one was injured, but it's pretty crazy. There's not a lot of context here, but we can see this guy pummeling this older guy sitting here, but there's a very good reason for that. This incident happened only a couple days ago on an Alaska Airlines flight where this elderly gentleman had a violent medical outburst while on the tarmac. Apparently, this passenger started violently screaming and tearing at the woman's hair in front of him and refused to let go. As a result, this guy ended up stepping in and clearly used force to try to get him to let go of the woman's hair, which eventually he did, and the guy was escorted off the plane. The flight, of course, was canceled, so I'm sure all the passengers here were not happy about that, and obviously this guy is never going to be allowed back on an Alaska flight again. This is quite possibly one of the most disgusting videos that I've ever been tagged in, so if you don't want to lose your lunch, I would recommend scrolling right now. So for some reason, this video went super viral. A bunch of you guys have been tagging me for context, and in it, we can see this guy sitting in a tank and dunking himself in brown fluid that I have completely censored out. And I was quite concerned because I had an idea as to what this was, but my suspicion was confirmed after I found this Craigslist ad, or at least screenshot. I will pay to enter your septic tank for an hour at a time for 150 bucks. And this mask right here looks quite similar to this one, so maybe there's a crossover, I'm not sure. Anyways, this guy clearly has something known as cochrophilia, which is when people are obsessed with number 2. So much so that just like a fly, they will surround themselves with it, swim in it, play around with it, you name it. And for individuals like this, usually it's tied to pleasure, if you could believe it. If you guys want to believe in fairies, that's entirely up to you, but what I am going to tell you is that this video definitely doesn't prove it. This TikTok that I got tagged in shows this person walking outside when they become startled by something flying next to their head. They then run inside and shut the door, and this winged creature flies by that many people thought was a fairy. So first off, if you look right here, you can see that there are 2 distinct body parts hanging down as this thing flies by, which leads me to believe that this is more than likely a Luna moth, which many people actually do confuse with fairies when they record them. Here you can see what a Luna moth looks like in slow motion when it's flying, and you'll notice it looks pretty similar to what was seen in the original video. On top of this, everyone knows moths are attracted to light, and in this clip, this creature basically makes a beeline towards the light and then flies off. So realistically, I think it is much more likely that this thing is a Luna moth, and definitely not a fairy.
Would you have trusted this small boat?
Money.
You might be wondering why this guy is so mad that these people down here are trying to sell him vegetables, but there's a very good reason. This is a clip that was posted to Reddit. It shows this guy angrily brandishing his axe down at the water, and we can see this small boat filled with vegetables and fruit, and these guys sitting on the back. Now allegedly, the reason why this guy is so concerned is because he's in pirate waters and he's worried that these guys are pirates. And this is not that unbelievable because pirates are not just a thing of the past. There are modern day pirates, and a lot of these attacks have been going on in the South China Sea and surrounding areas. And unlike past pirates where they have these very luxurious and large ships, Pirates today really don't have anything of the sorts. Usually they're seen in small skiffs or larger but much more run-down fishing boats. Either way, we would need more context to know whether or not these are actually pirates, but it's best not to trust them and be safe anyways.
Something bad happened to the boxer in blue.
As you guys heard, no sound effects were used for this video, so the outcome here was not good. The clip that you guys just watched shows these two young boys in the middle of a boxing match, and this guy on the right strikes the other one in the liver. The ref then breaks up the fight, and we can see this guy in blue back here starting to sway a little bit, looking very uneasy on his feet, and right after the video cuts off, this guy ends up collapsing against the ropes. So the boxer in blue here was a 14-year-old by the name of Timothy Shadrin, and he had been boxing for about 6 years. Here he can be seen at the #1 spot on the podium, and he was clearly a very talented boxer, not a novice whatsoever. But for some reason during this fight, because the ref didn't break it up quick enough, at least according to the article I was reading, Timothy did end up passing away from this after receiving a liver shot. The medical response was pretty quick as well, with people helping to get the ambulance in, but still, this did not help. Just based on listening to this clip, no, I would not jump in for $1 million unless I was purposefully trying to remove myself from this existence. This clip is pretty basic. Shows dudes doing what dudes do, dropping rocks into large holes. We can see that he lets go of the rock at 1.58 seconds, and the rock makes impact at 7.95 seconds. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering how far this drop truly was, and don't worry, I did the math. To find the height, you need to use this formula right here. Height equals gravitational acceleration times seconds squared divided by 2. This rock was in free fall for approximately 6.37 seconds, so 6.37 seconds squared times 9.8 meters per second squared divided by 2 is equal to 198.83 meters, or 652 feet roughly. So if you were to jump into this, even if there were water at the bottom, you would be flattened like a bookmark.
This man is lucky to be alive.
This is probably one of the scariest things that could ever happen to you that in reality is not actually that dangerous. This video was sent to me by one of my good friends, Dr. Nos, and it shows this kayaker off the coast of Chile being swallowed by a humpback whale. For a few seconds, the guy's friend who's recording is worried, but eventually this kayaker pops back up with his kayak as well. Now, humpback whales are very large creatures, so a lot of people understandably are fearful of them, especially when they're in the same body of water, fearing that they might try to swallow you. But in reality, while a humpback whale might accidentally put you in its mouth, their esophagus is far too narrow for a human to fit through, so they'll just spit you right back out. And this is further proven by the fact that humpback whales have baleen, so they're clearly not trying to eat large animals. Also, clips like this are posted online, but don't let that fool you. This is exceptionally rare. Not a lot of people end up in the mouth of a humpback whale.
Would you jump in for $1 million?
Well guys, I could confidently tell you no. I would not jump into this for $1 million, but it's not because of the brain-eating amoeba. This video shows probably the grossest still water that I've ever seen. It's a dark reddish color and it looks like the ground at first, until this guy chucks a rock in and we can see that this is actually water. Now I'm not too sure where these guys are, but based on the color of this water being red and yellow, I would guess that this is mine runoff. And if it is mine runoff, swimming in it would be extremely dangerous. That's because it's usually acidic, there's a ton of heavy metals in it, and it is extremely bad for life. In fact, even the name of this water is intimidating, known as AMD or acid mine drainage. It is so noxious and toxic that aquatic life literally cannot live in it. So microbes would not be my concern if I were to jump into this. It would be the fact that it's acidic and extremely toxic.
This is not at all what it looks like.
Guess what, guys? I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you got bamboozled. These are not dinosaurs. This clip went super viral on TikTok with nearly 20 million likes, which is insane, and it shows this person in what I believe to be Guatemala at Tikal Temple, and we can see these strange creatures. And when you look at this, especially with the Jurassic Park theme song playing, they look like small dinosaurs, but you know what? This video's in reverse. In reality, what we're looking at here are known as coatimundis, and they're part of the raccoon family primarily found in Central and Southern America. And right out the gate, you'll notice that these guys have a very long tail, and this is exactly what a lot of people thought was the dinosaur's head in the original video. They use this tail though for balancing and grabbing onto branches while they climb. And yes, these guys are very cute. Sometimes people have them as pets, but in the wild, they can be somewhat dangerous if you get too close to them, so definitely best to keep your distance.
This will release radiation into the air.
What is this alcohol?
As you guys know, I usually don't cover current news, but this a lot of people are worried about, so I figured I would talk about it. This is a clip that was very recently recorded in Chernobyl, and it shows this explosion on a portion of the nuclear power plant. The footage also shows a large hole and usually comes with the caption, "Nuclear radiation is leaking out and the world is doomed." So first and foremost, sitting on top of Chernobyl's radioactive waste is a large shell that prevents nuclear radiation from seeping out into the environment. And recently, a Russian drone smashed into this shell and created a pretty large hole in the outside of this shell. A lot of news agencies are now clickbaiting, saying that radiation is seeping out of Chernobyl. But in reality, this outer shell here is just the outermost portion. There are other layers in here keeping that nuclear radiation in, so nothing is currently leaking into the environment. So this is what we're doing on TikTok now, huh guys? We're just posting inaccurate information for anyone to see. This TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in went extremely viral with over 1.3 million likes, and it shows the North Sentinelese with the caption, "They can't be that dangerous," and then an image of a plane with a bunch of arrows in the bottom of it with the caption, "What they did to the plane that got that picture." For those that don't know, the North Sentinelese live on this very small island, and they're a tribe that's hostile to people that come in from the outside, and they really don't associate with the modern world. But this plane never visited North Sentinel Island. This is actually a pretty old art installation. What's even crazier is that this plane has been posted in a variety of misinformational posts, claiming that Native Americans in North America are the ones who shot it up with arrows, and a bunch of other wild claims that I'm not going to get into. This slideshow was posted a while ago, so I'm surprised a lot of you guys are tagging me in it, but this story is very disturbing. So this slideshow starts off with an image of a young man by the name of Asia, an image of a Batman roller coaster at a Six Flags in Georgia, and finally another selfie of Asia. For some context, this incident happened at a Six Flags in Georgia back in 2008, and on this particular day, Asia was in the amusement park, just walking around having a good time. At some point during his time here, Asia allegedly ended up losing his baseball cap in a restricted area underneath the Batman ride, so he decided to ignore warning signs, jumped 2 fences, and went down underneath the ride while it was coming through, and he apparently lost this portion of his body, of course not surviving it. The ride was shut down for quite some time, but apparently it was reopened.
Don't use camera flash at aquariums.
If you guys have ever been to an aquarium or a museum, more than likely you've seen a no flash sign and thought to yourself, that doesn't really make sense. But now you know why they have those signs. This is a video that was posted to TikTok that quite a few of you guys tagged me in. In it, we can see this woman taking a photo with flash, and a few seconds later, up on the right side of the screen, a tuna flies into the glass full speed, basically ending itself. And this is exactly why flash photography is discouraged at aquariums. So we don't know 100% why flash makes certain fish act erratically like this, but one hypothesis is that the flash on the glass kind of makes it look like the surface of the ocean, and the fish swim towards it. And certain animals like octopus or tuna are the more likely ones to have an erratic reaction to the flash. Tuna also swim over 40 miles per hour, so yeah, if it makes contact with the glass at full speed, it's not living.
This might happen to your tap water.
Money!
So this is something that you really wouldn't see too often, but there's a small chance that your tap water is flammable. At first, this video that I got tagged in is quite nonsensical. We can see this guy holding up a lit flame next to this tap, and then out of nowhere, the tap water appears to start burning, and we can see these flames sputtering out. And this is something that's been documented quite a bit online, and more than likely what's happening here is methane gas has made its way into this person's tap water. Methane gas is obviously flammable, and a lot of you guys are probably wondering how this even gets into drinking water in the first place, and usually it has to do with fracking. And fracking is a process of harvesting natural gas. Basically, these small fissures are created, and sometimes the fissures can lead into a drinking water source, and the methane will also seep into there as well. As a result, you end up with pockets of flammable methane gas, meaning you can literally light your tap on fire.
Jump in with my shoes on.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, ready?
Oh!
So lately, a lot of you guys have been tagging me in this content creator's videos, and that's for a very good reason. And this right here is the clip that made her famously disliked. We can see her talking to this homeless woman. The homeless woman then jumps into the water, and the content creator Natalie Reynolds kind of laughs it off and then runs away. Now, in most cases, this really wouldn't be that big of a deal, except for the fact that Natalie essentially bribed this woman to jump in for $20 when she couldn't swim. And this is made even worse by the fact that none of her friends or Natalie jumped in to help this woman. Instead, they ran away, and this clip is even worse.
No, stop. Seriously, don't stop. Please, you're actually freaking me out.
So now she's on TikTok basically rage baiting this whole entire situation, even though it happened quite a while ago, and a lot of people are rightfully upset. This is the second time that I've seen this story go extremely viral, and seeing as this got 5.4 million likes, a bunch of you guys tagged me in it, so I'm going to cover it again. So this slideshow is pretty easy to piece together. We can first see this diver right here holding a small green bottle, and a note that came out of the bottle: will the person who finds this bottle return the paper to George Morrow, with the date 1926. So this bottle was found by this diver back in 2021, Jennifer Dowker, in Sheboygan River in Michigan. And after finding it, this story here was posted to Facebook, and nobody really knew if George Morrow was still alive. Well, spoiler, this was George Morrow right here, but he was not alive when this letter was found. He passed away in 1995. However, his 74-year-old daughter recognized the handwriting and stated that George liked to do this pretty frequently, leave notes for people to find. The handwriting matched up as well, so it's pretty crazy that all of this worked out. Gotta be honest with you guys, I have no idea what we're looking at here, but I can still tell you what the biggest bird in history was. So this TikTok slideshow first starts off with an image of a bald eagle saying, "I'm the biggest bird," an image of this bird that's extinct, known as the Argentavis, and finally this no context image of just a mountainside. Now, right out the gate, the biggest bird in history depends on what you consider to be the biggest metric. In terms of weight, more than likely we're talking about the elephant bird, which could weigh up to 800 kilograms, well over 1,000 pounds. For reference, this is an ostrich egg right here, and this is the elephant bird's egg. But if you would consider the largest metric to be wingspan, then it would be this guy who went extinct 25 million years ago, the Pelagorni sandersii. But make no mistake, just because this was the largest bird, it does not mean it was the largest winged creature in existence. That would belong to the Quetzalcoatlus.
Would you eat this for $1 million?
What is this alcohol?
This video made a lot of people uncomfortable, including myself, but this guy right here is not a harm. Actually, he is going to be eaten. So this video that I got tagged in first shows a guy who looks like he's about to pull up a fish, but then in the water we can see these two little arms sticking out, and they quickly pull down and then it resurfaces again. And what these guys are actually going after is something known as a freshwater prawn. These are a highly sought after crustacean because they're very large and they have a very rich flavor. When people see these prawns though, usually they do get pretty freaked out because of how long their arms are. Males, of course, are going to be the ones with the longer arms. This has to do with mating, but it also allows them to catch food more easily. These prawns can also be found in a variety of different locations, like the Indo-Pacific region, Northern Australia, and the United States. So if you're an avid fisherman and you want to catch something a little bit more unique, then you can check to see if these guys are in your area and you can go catch.
This man is already dead. He just doesn't know it yet.
Needless to say, this is one of the most terrifying things that can happen to you when you're at sea, and things did not turn out well for this guy. This is a video that was sent to me through Instagram DM, shows a man on this tugboat walking outside onto the deck, and going to the restroom for about a minute before eventually losing his balance and falling overboard. Now this incident happened in June of 2024 in the Sea of Japan, and these sailors were Russian. It's assumed that the sailors were drinking here, and partially the reason why this guy lost his balance and fell overboard in the first place. And what's really terrifying about this is that the people on the boat didn't notice that he was gone until they made it back to harbor hours later. The Sea of Japan also has reasonably cold water, and despite the fact that this happened in June, it would still be about 4 to 5 hours of exposure in this water to do you in. They did search for this guy for about 9 days after this happened, but they didn't find him or his remains. Ever since uploading a video a couple days ago denouncing my belief in fairies, you guys have really been tagging me in a bunch of them, so we're going to talk about this one. So obviously a lot of you guys tagged me in this slideshow. It first starts off with an image of a supposed fossilized fairy, and the second image shows an actual X-ray of a fairy, and this is the one that we're going to be talking about. So this fairy is actually an artifact that was found back in 2011 in Mexico, and a lot of people call it the Mexican fairy. A man supposedly found it on the side of the road. This other guy named Marzulli then ended up buying it, and he actually brought it to a museum for them to check it out and see if it was real. And at first glance, it does look like a small human skeleton, but things are not as they seem here, and this is also a hoax. After testing this fairy, the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History determined that these were just a bunch of bat body parts glued together to look like a human. I'm really not too sure why this slideshow chose to have such creepy music, but there really isn't anything creepy about this. So the first image in this slideshow that I got tagged in shows something known as Salisbury Hill in the year of 2023, and the exact same photo, just with a black and white filter with the year 1999 and a skull emoji. For some backstory, Salisbury Hill is a prehistoric mound in England. It was built back in 2400 BC, so thousands of years ago, and nobody really knows why it was built. Salisbury Hill, in all honesty, is not really that tall either, standing at only 110 feet, so it's not a very large structure. But potentially, what I believe this slideshow is referencing with the year 1999 is that shortly after 1999, a crater ended up forming in the year 2000 due to heavy rain, but again, I'm not sure why they're referencing that year. General rule of thumb, guys, this is a way that you can tell whether or not someone's spying on you when you're in the bathroom. This is a simple 2-image slideshow that you guys tagged me in, first starting off with an image of a basic mirror, and then this comparison. Now at first, things look somewhat the same, but here we can see that the fingertips between the reflection and the person are separate, and here they are together. And this is important because if your fingers touch and there's no space between them, this might be a two-way mirror. And while it's rare for someone to install a two-way mirror into the bathroom, this is what it looks like. From the bathroom, it's a standard mirror, but there could easily be someone on the other side in a small hidden room, spying on you and watching what you're doing. And for those of you curious, this is what it looks like in real life with a normal mirror, an acrylic two-way, and a glass two-way. So you can see there's a pretty big difference, and it's easy to tell.
This is actually not funny, it's tragic.
Again, this video, just like the last one, had a bunch of people joking and laughing in the comments, but the implications behind it, very sad. So this is actually the second video like this that I've been tagged in, where we can see this dog with a very wide stance, large body, small head, and in general, this dog really doesn't look like it has a high quality of life because it's not very mobile. And more often than not, a dog that has a build like this is more than likely going to be the result of something known as a backyard breeder. Dogs are obviously a hot commodity, certain breeds are very expensive, so what a lot of people will do is, without any experience, they will attempt to create expensive dogs so they can make a quick buck. But the problem with this is when you don't have a lot of experience breeding dogs, you are going to make bad mixes that won't turn out the way you intend them. Oftentimes, this results in dogs that don't look quite right, and dogs whose entire existence is pure misery. You know, this slideshow right here really speaks to me and scares me because I'm just so freaking tall, you know what I mean? Just playing, guys. Anyways, this slideshow that I got tagged in starts off by saying, did you know that your lungs can suddenly collapse for no reason, making it impossible to breathe, and this is more common in tall and skinny people. Now this slideshow was posted by IdkSterling Facts, and shout out to you for finding one that I have never heard before. But first, the scariest part about this is that your lung can spontaneously collapse for a variety of different reasons, and this is known as a spontaneous pneumothorax. This can happen to anyone, and when this happens, you're going to experience very bad chest pain, shortness of breath, and generally, it's going to be terrifying. Even worse though, is that if you're tall and skinny, you have higher odds of this happening. And this is because the taller you are, the more volume you have in your lungs, and therefore there's a lot more stress placed on your lung tissue. Basically, higher chance of things going wrong.
If you see this, run away fast.
Now hold on there, guys. Before you start screaming in panic, there's nothing to worry about here. This video has recently been going viral on TikTok, and it shows something known as an oarfish swimming up on the beach. Now, the oarfish is a deep-sea fish, so seeing it on the beach like this is extremely rare, and therefore people think that this is a bad omen. There are many people out there who refer to the oarfish as the doomsday fish because there have been some accounts in history where these fish have showed up just before natural disasters like earthquakes or tsunamis. And even today, a lot of people actually believe this myth, so of course people were freaked out in the comments stating something bad is going to happen. But this is not necessarily true, at least if you're not superstitious. In reality, oarfish, when they're up at the surface, are usually about to die, they're feeling sick, and they're disoriented, therefore they leave their normal habitat. But I can't blame people for being creeped out by them because they can be extremely long and they look like sea serpents. There are so many people in this image right here that it's hard to even tell what is going on. This is a pretty interesting slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by showing different artists and their venues and how many people are here. First, we have Taylor Swift, Beyonce, BTS, Drake, and finally this photo without a name of what's going on. Right here is the original image though, without all of the editing and saturation, and if you look closely you can see a bunch of Argentinian flags. So what we're looking at here is Buenos Aires, Argentina in 2022 after they won the World Cup. As a result, the residents in Buenos Aires obviously stormed the street to celebrate, and when all was said and done, approximately 4 million people turned out for this party. And if this number alone does not speak to you, this is essentially like a large city all congregating in one place for one celebration. That's an unprecedented amount of people. So I know for most people, this right here might look a little odd still, but it's definitely a big improvement, and I'm very happy for this guy. So this is a slideshow that was sent to me through Instagram DM. It starts off by showing this guy with a growth on his face by the name of Stefan Zollake, and another image of Stefan Zollake after getting surgery to remove this growth. So for context, this is what Stefan used to look like prior to getting this disease, known as Madelung's disease. And this disease is relatively easy to explain. Basically, this entire growth right here are fatty deposits, and in certain people with Madelung's, you can get fatty deposits on your neck as well, or your back. And overall, it's not directly dangerous, but of course it's annoying, physically changes your appearance, and it could potentially get in the way. In any event, this is what Stefan looked like directly after the procedure, and as you can see, it's a very big difference.
This lion looks very depressed.
What is this alcohol?
So this is one that I'm going to tread carefully with, and just remember, everything here is alleged, but this video is quite sad in my opinion. This video that I got tagged in starts off by showing a small crack in this fence with the caption, "Six Flags, y'all are sick." And then they zoom in through this crack in the fence, and we can see a lion that looks pretty depressed. So this video, I believe, was recorded at the Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, and there's a bunch of controversy behind this specific park. And that's because many of the animals that were in the care of this park ended up passing away, and a lot of people allege that the trainers and pretty much the entire staff don't really know what they're doing when it comes to taking care of these animals. And of course, on the other hand, Six Flags claims that they treat all of their animals like family members and that they're promoting environmental conservation. In my opinion, there does seem to be some questionable information out there related to the animals, but again, that's just my opinion.
Hey, Apple! What?
This photo right here is quite tragic, guys, because no matter what this bird did, it wasn't going to get out. This is a unique Hey Apple slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by saying, "Hey bird," the bird saying what, and finally an image of what I believe to be a kingfisher, clearly no longer with us, stuck in this leaf. Now, just like their name suggests, kingfishers are going to primarily be consuming fish, and they have a pretty unique way of hunting. They dive down at about 25 miles per hour into the water and capture their prey. However, on rare occasions, a kingfisher might mistake a tree or leaf, for example, for water and end up diving in and getting itself stuck. More than likely, that's what happened, but with that being said, there are a lot of videos online where people are probably staging the kingfishers in the tree. So this one, I do believe, is legitimate.
If you see this, boat away fast.
So full disclosure, guys, I do not know 100% what this is, but I am quite confident in my theory. In this clip, this person is recording from a boat. We can see that right here there appears to be something moving. It then moves off to the side of the boat, and whatever this is appears to be extremely large. Now there are two theories I saw a lot of people putting out into the comments. The first one was that this might have been a sturgeon. However, sturgeon do not swim very fast, and they also don't swim directly straight, they move side to side. With this theory possibly eliminated, a lot of people thought this might be a submarine close to the surface. And while this is slightly more believable, I think it would be a lot more obvious to tell if it was a submarine. In my personal opinion, and feel free to disagree with me on this, I think we're actually looking at a large river rock. I also think this is an optical illusion, and the boat is moving at the same speed as the water, so it looks like they're standing still.
Would you jump in for $1 million?
Money!
You guys can say whatever you want to say, but hell no, I'm not jumping into that for $1 million. This is actually a 3-year-old video that I got tagged in recently on TikTok, and in it we can see this guy on a paddleboard passing over one jellyfish, and then they pan the camera over and we can see even more jellyfish. And yeah, this is definitely water you wouldn't want to fall in. So more than likely, the type of jellyfish that we're looking at here is something known as a South American sea nettle. Blooms of this type of jellyfish usually pop up in the summer and fall. They can have tentacles ranging from 3 to 10 feet in length, and their sting is quite painful. For the most part, pain is compared to the same intensity as that of a bee sting, but it will last for about 30 minutes, and obviously, the more you're stung, the worse it's going to be. Fortunately, it's extremely rare to die from a sea nettle sting, but still, the more you're stung, the higher your chances.
They found a headless moose in Chernobyl.
You know, this is a clip that I saw a very long time ago, and I'm going to be honest, I have since changed my opinion about this clip. So this clip was supposedly recorded at Chernobyl. It shows this moose crossing a railroad track, and it looks normal at first, but once the cameraman zooms in, we can see that it appears as though this moose does not have a head. And a lot of people believe that this is an example of a nuclear mutated moose. And if you don't know what Chernobyl is, back in 1986, a nuclear reactor blew up, spewing radiation everywhere. People were evacuated, but obviously wildlife stuck around. Now in Chernobyl, there have been some documented cases of mutations, namely frogs basically turning black, and possibly wolves with genetics that help them avoid getting cancer, but headless moose would be quite a stretch, and honestly, I think the moose's head is turned the opposite direction, and this is just an optical illusion.